to use it within 60 days, because if you don't, it will actually stop working, and then we have to go back in and reactivate it, and that can take up to a week to do. So, when you're trying to figure out how to get somewhere on VTA, the VTA website will give you a list of maps and routes in the county. We don't carry paper schedules here anymore. Most things are done online now. So this is an example of some of the frequent routes in the Bay Area. And when you're looking at a route, its name is going to have the stations at either end of the line. So the 64A goes to Ohlone Chenoweth Light Rail Station and McKeon White roads. And when you look at a bus, the front of the bus is going to tell you what station that bus is heading to. So that's how you know if the bus is actually going in the right direction. Like these two pictures of the 64A, you can see that one of them is southbound because Ohlone Chenoweth station is the southernmost station on the line. And you can see which one's northbound because McKeon White is up in the north. And then VTA uses a system of colors where blue lines are low frequency lines, also called local lines, which run between every half hour to every hour. And red is frequent, so at least every 15 minutes. And then green are express lines, but those aren't really relevant to SJX2 students. And then, what is going on? So these are some examples of different signage and bus stops you might see, because we actually have a very, very diverse variety of bus stop design in this county. And so there are a lot of different designs you're not even going to see in this photo, but you will always see one of these signs. And when you look at a sign, if you can see how each line is highlighted a different color, that actually tells you how frequent that line is. And so another thing to know is that we do have one-way streets in downtown San Jose. First, second, third, and fourth streets are all one-way streets. And so when VTA encounters streets like that, they have to run the northbound service and the southbound service on different streets. So this photo up top is First and Second Street in downtown San Jose around San Antonio Station. And the northbound stop on First Street is actually down here, but the southbound stop on Second is up here, because generally VTA likes to have their stops before an intersection. Sometimes that's not possible, so you do have to like look out for that, but usually it's before the intersection. And so when you're going south, you just have to know that you actually have to get on the bus at a different street if it's a one-way street. And there actually is this walking path between the two stations here. And down here on San Carlos, this is how bus stops are normally done. They'll actually be on opposite sides of the road. And this is actually an example where the bus stops after the intersection, which, like I mentioned, VTA doesn't really like to do that, but there are often cases where they have to, even though they don't want to. So you do very often have to pay attention to where have they decided to put the bus stop on this exact street, because they can't really keep the rules consistent every time, because often traffic conditions or road conditions just don't allow that. And then for light rail, things are a bit simpler. We got this map up here. And there's 3 lines, each line referred to as a color. And all light rail has frequent service. And then when you're at the station, they have these nice electronic signs that'll tell you when the next train is coming on each line. They have implemented this at some bus stops as well, but most bus stops don't have this kind of signage yet. And then when you're boarding a bus, you will have to tag your Clipper card in order to let the driver know that you have the university pass, so you've paid. This is what the different Clipper card readers in service look like. Where the reader is going to depend on what kind of bus you're boarding. Sometimes the reader is next to the driver. Sometimes the reader is next to the door on the left-hand side. It's down to the individual model, and VTA switches up their bus models a lot, so you just have to look for it when boarding. If you're not sure, the driver can always show you where it is, but it's generally pretty easy to see. With light rail, though, there are no Clipper card readers on light rail vehicles, so you have to tag your Clipper card before you board the light rail. And the readers are going to be at the train stations. So these freestanding readers on poles are what you're going to be looking for. And you don't have to tag off when you get off the light rail. You only tag when you get on the light rail. Because there are some other transit agencies where you have to tag off, but VTA is not one of them. And to request a stop, it depends on what kind of vehicle you're in. Older buses use these cords in front of the window, whereas the new system prefers these buttons on the railings. But as you can see from this photo, a lot of buses have both. So if you want to stop, you just either pull the cord or press the button, and that tells the bus driver that this bus needs to stop at the next stop. If you're in a light rail vehicle, they have these weird little skinny buttons in between the windows, and you just press one of them. And normally there's an audible like announcement for each stop that'll tell you like what the next upcoming stop is, but often those systems aren't working, so you may just have to pay attention. Using either Google Maps or the transit app to see like where the bus is right now can be very useful if the audible stop announcements aren't working and you need to know if you're coming up to your stop. And there should also be an electronic sign at either the front of the bus or either end of the light rail car that tells you where the next upcoming stop is. And then you can bring your bicycle on board VTA. A bus can carry either 2 or 3 bicycles on a rack on the front of the bus. It depends what model bus it is. Newer buses have racks that can carry 3 bikes, but a lot of the older buses, it's just 2. A driver may allow 2 people to bring bikes inside the bus, but that's up to the driver discretion. They don't have to allow it if they don't want to. So especially if it's a very busy bus during morning commute hours, they might say no. But if there's room and the racks are filled, they might let you. And when you're getting off of a bus and you have a bicycle on the front rack, you always need to tell the driver that you're going to be taking a bike off that rack so that the driver knows not to move that bus. And that's very important because they could either drive off with your bike or somebody could get hurt. And then if you're boarding a light rail vehicle, there are bike racks in between the light rail cars. So you can see this picture here. This is the racks on VTA light rail. And you just have to lift your bike up and they store it vertically like this. If you don't want to use these racks or they're filled up, or it will be a challenge for you to lift your bike up like this, you actually don't have to use these racks to carry a bike on the light rail. You can just sit down with your bike in a normal seat if you prefer to do that, as long as there's space for the bicycle. And then VTA does offer park and ride service at many light rail stations, and that is a free service. Like VTA generally does not charge for parking at VTA stations. And so the stations that have P's on this map are park and ride stations. But it's important to know that VTA does not own the parking at Diridon or Berryessa Station. And so those parking lots are not free. You would have to pay for them. And if you want to use Tommy Station, that park and ride lot actually fills up incredibly fast in the morning, and it's very unlikely you'll get a spot. Kirtner's not quite as bad, but it's still one to be a bit careful of. So you might want to look at some of the other stations in South San Jose. And there is also a bike share program, which is run by Lyft under the name Bay Wheels. So in order to pay for this, you sign up for a Lyft account, and then you can either use the Bay Wheels app, or you could actually use your Clipper card. So in order to do that, you would just give Lyft the Clipper card number on the back of your card, but the Smart Pass does not cover Bay Wheels, so you would have to load money onto your Clipper card and use that to pay for the Bay Wheels service. It's just that you'd be able to use your card to unlock bikes, just like you could use it to pay for regional transit. And if you're living on campus, you actually get 6 free credits per month for a non-electric Bay Wheels bike. And so we will email the information about that to whatever your preferred email address is with SJSU if you're a student who lives in on-campus housing. If you're not a student who lives on-campus housing, unfortunately, you wouldn't get those credits. And you can get a map of all of the Bay Wheels stations in Santa Clara County on the Bay Wheels website. And we also have 6 locked bicycle enclosures around campus for bicycle commuters. And these you can access by paying a one-time $15 fee. And then as long as you stay a valid student, your key keeps working. So you don't have to pay that fee every semester. It's just once. We don't allow overnight storage in these bicycle cages, though. These are for commuters. So if you're living on campus and you want to bring a bicycle, you would have to speak to whatever your dorm is to figure out how they handle bicycle parking, because each dorm has their own systems for this that are not managed by Transportation Solutions, and we don't know anything about them. And we do not allow e-scooters in these bicycle enclosures. We do, however, allow e-bikes. We also have a $50 bike reimbursement program, which if you buy a bike or safety accessories starting a couple weeks before the semester begins, you could get reimbursed for up to $50 of that expense if you send us your valid receipts to the transportation email, which is transportation@sjsu.edu. But I would wait on that because that program is not going to apply to purchases made more than a couple weeks for the start of the semester. So if you buy a bike right now, you would not be able to get reimbursed. And there are also open racks around the campus, which are free to use. You don't need to buy a key from us to use those. And there is a bike and scooter parking rack over at SRAC, which is our gym and aquatic facility. Yeah. And then there's also Zipcar service, which is a car rental service that provides service to people aged 18 or over. There are 4 Zipcars in the South Campus parking garage, and these are intended for occasional one-day use. These are not for commuting. Like, it's like a traditional car rental. It's just that they rent to people younger than most car rental companies wouldn't rent to. And if you are an SJSU student who signs up for a membership through your SJSU email address, you can get a $15 credit from us to use on Zipcar. So how you would go about that is you just sign up for the membership on the Zipcard website, and it has to be with your SJSU email address. And then you send us proof of that membership to the Transportation SJSU email account, and also send us your tower ID number. And then we can go through the process of getting you that ride credit. And to get the prices for Zipcar, you would have to use the Zipcar app, because we're not able to check pricing without having the app, and things are pretty variable. And it is important to know that there is a fee for drivers under 25 to offset the insurance costs that come with renting to people who are younger than that. There is also a Lyft evening ride program, which operates from 6:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. And it is only valid for rides that start or end at SJSU. And you get 3 Lyft credits per month, and each credit is worth $10. And this is really meant for like helping you get home late from campus. And we will send an email invite to whatever your preferred email address is through SJSU. And that email is what's going to be used to either create your Lyft account or apply to an existing Lyft account. And then rental e-scooters cannot be ridden at San Jose State. E-scooters aren't allowed to be ridden on campus at all. And the rental companies that operate in San Jose have actually geofenced the university so that the scooters will stop working if you try to ride them on campus. And so we have designated parking spots around the campus to leave these rental scooters. That's what these signs are. And in order to rent one of these scooters, you actually have to have a valid driver's license. And you cannot ride these on sidewalks. If you own your own personal e-scooter, there is actually no legal way to park or store one on campus. They're not allowed in buildings because of the fire risk. And they're not allowed to be ridden on campus either. And they're not allowed in bike enclosures. So there just isn't a way to store or carry one. And we've also had issues with people riding e-scooters inside campus buildings. And for very clear reasons, don't do that. So the Transit app is an app we recommend to help you figure out how to take transit. It gives you a lot of information. It can tell you how far away the bus and trains are from a transit stop you're currently at. So if you're at the light rail station late at night and you just want to know when the train's coming, it'll tell you. It'll tell you when the bus is coming, basically any bus stop you're at. But it can also plan a trip for you. So if you see this options near thing here, you can actually click on that and type in an address, and it'll tell you how to get from point A to point B, and it'll give you a bunch of different options like you can see here. That'll tell you where to walk to catch transit, what transit agencies to take, what different options exist, and how long each option will take. And it'll also show you where the bay wheel stations are if you're interested in renting a bike. And you also get the premium service that gives you the most options for free, because VTA actually pays for everybody in Santa Clara County to have access to that free premium service. So you don't even have to sign up for that or anything. It just can tell that you're in Santa Clara County, and it automatically gives you the service. San Francisco also pays for this premium service. So if you're traveling to San Francisco, you're going to keep getting those benefits up there. Okay. And so I think that covers the presentation. So now we can open it to questions.
If you have a question that you want to ask verbally, feel free to use the raise your hand feature, or again, you can type your questions in the Q&A.
So for that first question, the answer is yes. As long as you're an enrolled SJSU student, you can ride that park and ride shuttle. You don't have to have actually parked at that lot, and you don't have to have a parking permit. Oh, I can see you've answered these. Okay, so the best way to get from SJSU to the Amtrak station is what's called the Rapid 500 bus, which is a VTA bus that goes from Diardon Station to Berryessa Station. Berryessa Station is the BART station, and Diardon Station is the Amtrak and Caltrain and ACE station. So that bus actually stops at San Jose City Hall, which is one of the two public transit hubs for San Jose State, because that's right across the street from us. And so if you're going to either train station, you're going to take the 500 bus to and from San Jose State, both to get here from the train station and to get back there. And yes, the Zoom recording will be sent after the workshop. And yes, the app that was just shown is called the Transit Bus and Subway Times by Transit Inc. It's not by VTA specifically because they're actually a company up in Canada that works with a ton of different transit agencies. So that's why the app works as well in San Francisco as it does here, because a lot of agencies like VTA and SFMTA have signed up to work with this company. Skateboards and kick scooters are allowed on campus, and you can ride them anywhere you could ride a bicycle, because you can ride bicycles on campus. It's just that we have an area around the student union where you're not allowed to ride bicycles, but everywhere else on campus you can ride them. And yes, tagging the Clipper card just means it needs to be used within 60 days of getting the card. Okay. Let's chat. Okay, and then if anybody has a question that they want to ask verbally over the call now, you can either raise your hand or come off mute, and we can start answering those questions.
All right, are there any questions we haven't gotten to yet? So after submitting the Clipper card request, you can come to the general services counter to pick up your card. And there's no time frame for that. The fees for the bike enclosure is a one-time $15 payment. We got the 60-day one correct. Policies around skateboards and kick scooters. Adam, can you address that one, please?
Oh yeah, like I was saying, those are treated the same way bicycles are treated. So throughout most of the campus, you are allowed to ride a bicycle. There's just one area around the student union where you're required to dismount from your bicycle. And so it's the same with kick scooters and skateboards. Anywhere you can ride a bike, you can ride one of those. And anywhere you can't ride a bike, you would have to get off of it. Bikes and kick scooters you can take inside campus buildings, that's fine. because the reason you can't take e-scooters or e-skateboards in campus buildings is because the batteries have a tendency to catch fire. So if there's no battery, it's not a problem. And I mentioned before that there is a special walking rack for skateboards and kick scooters in front of the campus gym, which is called S-Rack, that you could use.
Did we answer the Amtrak question? Amy, did you get your question answered?
I did answer the Amtrak question. Yes,
Great,
that
thank you.
that's the Rapid 500 bus is the one that runs between both of the regional train stations in San Jose and stops in front of the university.
Perfect. Okay, are there any other questions? I think we have gotten to most of them. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat our contact information and the contact information for parking services. They have more information regarding shuttle service and parking in particular. And then if anybody has any further questions, they can always reach out to us. Let's see here. All right, we'll give it just a couple more minutes if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, we are going to get going. Great, well, thank you all for attending. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording now.